how do you deal with some of that? Like, I'm sure you've gotten some comments or something where someone just totally hated it. How do you kind of handle that kind of pressure, I suppose?
One, it's hard because we're all humans. I think that's hard for everyone. But I think also it's like it's understanding when is it something you need to work on versus when is it this was not the right story for someone. And something to keep in mind that just drives me nuts is your brain is going to put more importance on negative things than positive things. And I mean, that's, a self preservation mechanism. But I know I just did a reel on reviews since I just hit 100 reviews or ratings on Goodreads. And when I was going through it, I was like, oh, I forgot how much people love this story. Right?
Yeah.
Because those did not stick in my head as strongly. Like, I mean, I loved them when I read them and I love them. Right. But it's like, they don't stick in your head, but like somebody will make, one comment of something they didn't like in your story and you're going to remember that. At least that's how I feel. And I'm like, man, is it something I did? Right. And that's when you have to take it back and be like, well, and you have to assess, is it something I should work on to improve for the next book? Or was this not the right story for that person? And then that's how you decide. If it wasn't the right story for them, that's okay. And you have to let it go. If it's something that you're like, oh, okay, I could do that better in the next book, then walk away with that.
Yeah, that happens to me a lot, especially when I first started doing YouTube, is you get that one comment on a video that's like, you should stop doing this and you're terrible.
Oh my gosh.
And then so your whole like brain is just like, maybe they're right, like
right.
You have that moment. But it's definitely like, then I have to look back and be like, oh, there's still like a few thousand people on here that are not saying that. So
but they actually enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's
and then
it's
the other
never
thing
fun.
To consider, how many people are not telling you, right? How many people are watching your YouTube or reading your book and they're like, this brightened my day, or I love this, or I learned something new, or whatever. And they're not going to rate you or follow you or anything, but you still made an impact on that person. And that's actually most, by the way, is most people don't rate or review or speak up. So I think that's something to remember too.
Yeah, absolutely. I would fall in that camp of like, if I read or watch a movie or something and don't like it, I like 99% of the time I won't leave any kind of rating. If I do like it, maybe 50% of the time I'll leave a rating. But I would agree with you. Like most people, like they watch or read or something and they go, or they love it. But either way, they don't take the time to do it. So I 100% I agree with you that like for every one rating out there for someone who loved it, there's hundreds more of people who liked it that just didn't leave the rating.
Yeah. In fact, I was actually surprised how many people that's such a thing that they don't do because in this community we do, right? Because we know it's important for authors, but the casual reader, some of them, they don't even know how. Right. Like I've heard that from some of my author friends. They'll be like, oh, I love, somebody will message me and be like, I loved your book. And they'll be like, oh, great. Would you mind leaving a rating? And they're like, oh, I have no idea how to do that. And that tells you, and it's not just your book or not just your, whatever you're doing. It's like a lot of people don't do that in general. That's not part of their, part of what they do. And so I don't know, something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you look at like, on Amazon where you see the star rating, or if you look on Rotten Tomatoes for the rating for the audience score, it's like there's maybe on a really massive movie you might have 1,000 ratings for a movie that makes
millions,
like $1 billion, like so much money. So it's like 1,000 people out of the millions who saw it left a rating.
Yeah.
With the book, it's like you just hit 100 readers. Well, how many? You haven't had only 100 readers. You've had a bunch of readers and only 100 people left the rating.